So, for those of you who aren't aware, my name is Kayleen Harrington, and I recently joined the Norfolk Chamber of Commerce as their event manager. So, before I get started, I'm extremely excited to let you know that our flagship event, the Big Debate 2021, is live on our website and going virtual for the first time. This high-profile annual event is a key date in the commercial calendar for the start of 2021. On Friday, the 5th of February, we'll be bringing together Norfolk MPs and local business leaders to discuss and debate the issues affecting businesses in the region. This year's topics are beyond Brexit, people and skills, climate change and going green, and rebuilding the economy. I'll include in the chat a link to the event page where you can find out more details and book your place. We're also excited that we do have James Howells joining us from Turning Factor as well as one of the panelists. So thank you so much for joining us on our next Recovery Programme event. This series has been designed to support businesses to restart, rebuild and renew. So prioritising your well-being through effective time management. Workload is the #1 offender when it comes to workplace stress and anxiety. I think everyone can agree with that. This session is packed full of techniques to help you organise and prioritise your working week to help you become more productive, efficient and time-rich, perfect for helping that elusive work-life balance. So in this 75-minute virtual masterclass, Alex Sellers, Director of Turning Factor, will help you recognise your barriers and challenges to effectively manage your time, especially poor organisation and procrastination. Be aware of how you currently use your time and how to plan to improve. Understand your workload and how to prioritise effectively. So following the presentation, there'll be a live Q&A where Alex will answer all your questions. So please use the Q&A function when you have a question. So before I hand over to Alex, be aware that as soon as I hand over, my head will be going like this, but I promise I am just chasing up anyone who's not joined the session yet. So I'm doing background sort of admin support. I promise I'm not being rude and working and not listening. So yeah, Alex, it's over to you.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Kayleen, and a very warm welcome to everybody on this rather wet and drizzly mid-January day. Just right in the middle of it right now, aren't we? Yeah, Christmas is gone. We're a good few weeks into lockdown. Pressure's starting to tell. So really happy to welcome you all here today. I thought I'd give you a little bit of background, really. This, where this webinar comes from. Traditionally, time management is looked on as a classic, sort of leadership and management training day. And actually, we realized quite quickly that time management has a direct impact on how people feel and people's well-being. So we kind of reimagined it. We kind of re-put it back together. It's something that we run as a paid workshop. So we thought we'd pull out some of the key points for you today. And really just, I really hope, and thank you for that wonderful introduction, Kayleen. I've got a lot to live up to now. I think that one of the key things for me is to keep this simple. And we're going to explore a couple of key things today as we go through the workshop. And I think these are some of the key ones. The first thing is to understand the impact of workload on well-being. We've got to frame this up, and that's really crucial. I think that when we can start to recognize what workload does to us, we can start to understand how important it is to look at it in a different perspective. And that's really the aim of today. So what are the benefits of time management for well-being? We will look, as Kayleen rightly said, at how we prioritize our workload. And then we're going to, at the end of it, I've got some practical techniques that work for you. And I think that the real sort of message of all of this is it's all about the how. So there's a couple of different things in here. There's things that you will have heard of in today's workshop. But what's really important is that you're able to take anything, and apply it back to your workplace, or take it and help people work through their workload and help them manage their day perhaps a little bit better. So those are really the key outcomes. Now, one of the things, Kayleen is used to this, one of the things we like to do, we don't like webinars where everyone I can't see anybody. That's not how we operate. We really like to get people involved and engaged. So I'm going to throw a question out at you. Please do put your answers into the chat function. And really, all I want to know, okay, is what your understanding of it is. How do competing pressures and workload affect our well-being? What's your understanding of it? What does it feel like when we're under pressure? when the email keeps reaming off, when the workload builds, how does it affect our well-being? What does it do to us? Does it have an effect? I'm really keen to know what you guys feel and what you think. Kayleen, perhaps if you can monitor the chat if when people start to feed into it. So let us know, how does excessive workload affect us? What does it do to us? What are some of the negative consequences?
Do you want me to say how I feel while we wait for stuff to come in?
Yeah, what does it do to you, Kayleen?
So I almost feel like a little volcano, like almost the more emails I get, it just starts like bubbling up. And then I know sometimes, I know part of it's because I'm South African, but I can be a bit blunt or a bit rude, and I don't mean to be. You just get a bit snappy. So yeah, I just describe it like a little volcano bubbling up, and then I explode.
So that's all that pressure, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. So we're getting some feed in now. That's brilliant. Okay, we've got a couple of people. Enthusiasm drains your enthusiasm. It's exhausting, mentally strained, isolated, pressured, angry from Louise. Absolutely. Overwhelmed. That's a big thing, actually. And we do a lot of work with that in our resilience programs, Kelly, and you'll be used to that. Wake up in the middle of the night thinking of things. Absolutely. Yeah, it interrupts our sleep patterns. Stressed, tired, anxious. Absolutely. So I think the thing here, just as we can see, is that this is very real. This is, people suffer from anxiety and stress and worry on a daily basis. And it's not the realm of, certain individuals. All of us are at risk from being overwhelmed at times. So I thought I would run through some of the key stats here. And this is pulled from the HSE, Health and Safety Executive. And actually, this is 2020. So we're starting to see a little bit of COVID coming into this. This is actually, I'm almost sort of taking this and extrapolating the information without COVID, okay? So if we look at the impact of stress in the workplace, I think it's fairly well known that stress is a serious problem. It's something that we all need to be aware of. Those of us in leadership and management roles need to be very, very aware of the impact that stress and anxiety has on people, and it's everybody. And I think the key thing here, if we look at two big figures, 17.9 million days, 2020 lost due to stress. Think about the impact and the damage that that's causing people, and not just those people that are off because of illness, but those people that are still left who are soaking up the rest of the work as well. It impacts everybody. And I think the thing here is to look at it. Workload is cited as 45%, and that's enormous when we think about it. Now, I know that if you drill down into it, there will be other areas, but this isn't a trend from 2020. This was there in 2019. This was there in 2018, 2017. The pattern still remains. Workload is the number one offender when it comes to people suffering from stress, anxiety, and ultimately mental ill health and distress. And those are some pretty big figures that we need to be very aware of. Now, I think it's really, and please do feed in. Where's the answer? The answer, I don't think the answer is reducing the workload. We can manage expectations, we can push back, but ultimately, and especially now, we want to be busy. Busy is good. Busy means that we've got things. It's when we're not busy that actually different worries come in. So where does the answer lie? What does it happen? And that's what we're going to look at today. And what can happen? You started to feed into this, and I just put a few things here, and this is from my own experience and from experience teaching and speaking to people. When we are overwhelmed, and that's a really important word. I'm really pleased that you shared that earlier on. That's what it feels like. It's that overwhelming feeling. Kayleen, you mentioned pressure, volcano. Yeah, it's just that it's all building up inside us. That makes it incredibly difficult to prioritize and focus. It can lead to procrastination. It can lead to poor productivity. That pressure that Kayleen, you're feeling and other people are feeling, that pressure, too much of it for too long, leads to excessive stress. Now, stress has its own implications. And actually, excessive stress and prolonged stress can be extremely damaging to our health. And that's, again, statistically proven. We can have feelings of powerlessness. We can feel out of control. We feel increased worry and anxiety. We don't know if we're going to be able to achieve. There's a fear of failure and rejection that comes into this. These are some pretty profound impacts on all of us. And you brought this up earlier in the chat. What do? Well, we isolate. As soon as we're worried about things, we quite often isolate, or we over communicate. Either way, we're not communicating in the right way, and then that affects our sleep. It affects our diet. It affects our lifestyle choices. Sleep is considered as the most important area of resilience. if we lose our sleep, it impacts every other area of our life. So that waking up in the middle of the night worrying about something, that's important. We need to deal with that. We need to look at it. And of course, not everyone sleeps like a baby 365 days a year. That's not the answer. But if we're seeing repeated patterns, then we know that something needs to change. And this is damaging our well-being. The concept of well-being is about striking a harmonious balance. We may not eat well. I certainly, I'll comfort eat when I'm worried and stressed. We might start to throw ourselves at it. Our working week expands and it expands and it expands, and that's not the answer. Yes, we have to work hard. Yes, we have to do a lot. Yes, I'm happy with that. But we need to think cleverly and intelligently about it. And the more tired we are, the less nutrition, the less, I don't know the word for this, the worse our nutrition, the worse our lifestyle choices. This makes us then less able to produce. So that cycle gets bigger and it gets harder to deal with. And that encourages excessive stress, isolation, anxiety. So I can't underestimate the impact of workload on well-being. And I've seen it in action, and I have spoken to countless people and countless businesses. When you actually start to question and ask people, it comes back down to the amount of workload, and not just the amount of workload, it's how that workload is communicated and their patterns of support. So this is really important stuff. So, and we're not going to, this isn't a 2.5 hour training session today. We're just going to focus on what we can do to help with our workload and our well-being. So before we sort of launch into that, I wanted to do a little bit of a talk on procrastination. Now, I don't know about anybody else here, and people are different, okay? Procrastination is one of my key things. There you go. That's one of my issues. There's a couple ways of everybody procrastinates. Everybody procrastinates to some extent, all right? I got to see that grin from Kayleen. Yeah, I've hit a thing there. Brilliant. We all do it, okay? It's one of my major things. I'm very aware of what I'm doing it. What I wanted to do is actually raise the fact that procrastination can be a serious issue when it comes to our well-being. So in a simple way, the act of delaying and putting off tasks until the last minute. Yeah, don't want to do that. I'll do it later. And then eventually we get on and we do it. That's kind of the day-to-day procrastination. That it's just part of life. We can do it. But left unchecked, it can become a problem. It can actually become a form of self-regulation failure. And that's characterized by irrational actions, okay? We know that there are going to be negative consequences. We know that we are becoming troubled and anxious because we're putting this thing off, and yet we still do it. And that's where the balance falls, okay? And we tend to procrastinate when we're under pressure. The more pressure we're under, quite often, one of the things we do is procrastinate. And that actually is a sign that we're avoiding a reality. We're not accepting the things that we need to do, or we're not accepting the things that we need to take responsibility for. So it's worth spending a few minutes on procrastination and just seeing what it is, what it looks like, what causes it. You can see the list here. We might not know what needs to be done. We might be afraid to ask. We might not know who to ask. Not knowing how to do something. Yeah, we might, here's a great example. We often say this to people when they start, within 3 months in a new role, you've got a 3-month, canvas or period where, ask as many questions as you can. Because when that period is up, you're kind of expected to know stuff. And then all of a sudden you don't want to ask. Well, that means that you may not know how to do it. So there's a balance here between using our own initiative and actually putting something off because we don't know. And then our problems mount. Not wanting to do something. I can certainly relate to that. Plenty of stuff that I have to do that I don't want to do. And I will put it off. I will put it off until I absolutely have to. Being in the habit of waiting to the last minute. Knowing some people, and myself included, I work well under pressure. It focuses me. Stress and pressure to a point with me are excellent because they zone me in. It clears all the cobwebs out my brain and it allows me to work. And that's okay. I can cope with that. But if the balance shifts, then it becomes a real problem. So that believing that I work better under pressure, I have to watch that because there's a difference between that and procrastination. And not knowing where to start. And this is really big when it comes to time management. One of the things that quite often happens when we feel overwhelmed, and this is a physiological response, when those feelings of stress, pressure, and threat, because that's what it is, come to play and come to be dominant in our emotional response, our body slips into a fight, flight, or freeze response. When that happens, we are less able to think logically and rationally, and we're more designed to do something. That's just the nature of what we do. We talk a lot about that in our resilience program. Now, where that comes in is that can be that bit where you just look at the emails or the calendar or the workload that you've got and you literally don't know what to do next. And that's going to be the focus of today. Because what we need to do, this is the key message, this is what I will keep coming back to, is when we're under pressure and the workload is high, we need to be counterintuitive. We need to stop and we need to pause. I'm going to keep coming back to that. So we stop and we pause. So what's the impact of procrastination? Well, I think we all sort of have experienced it. And please feel free to move your tiles here. I'm just moving my tile. Worry and anxiety, we can be irritable. Yeah, ask my family when I'm procrastinating on things. I'm horrible. Lack of productivity because we're rushing things. We make mistakes. You know, we're not thinking things through, and therefore we're not as effective or as efficient as we might be. And what can also happen is that when we procrastinate on a big task, then we ultimately have to do it, and our other work can suffer. You know, it crowds out those other things. We don't look for feedback. You know, if I'm conscious that I haven't done something to the best of my ability, I might not then look for feedback. And we need feedback. Feedback is how we grow and how we develop. It's how we improve our communication. It's how we build our support networks. Feedback is crucial to all of this. And oftentimes when I'm procrastinating on things, I don't want that feedback because I'm worried about what people might say. You know, we may not ultimately realize our full potential in our working lives or our home lives. All this stuff it's not just about work. It's also about home. And we may find that we continue to struggle with our performance. This is very, very real, and it happens. Okay, and the trick here is that balance. It's when the procrastination shifts and it becomes an issue. So, what can we do about it? There's a couple of things. I've got a couple of suggestions for you, and for me. If you think about procrastination almost as the opposite of taking the right action, that's a really good way of doing it. So it's a very passive, it's an energy draining and an energy sapping habit, but it's passive. It means we're avoiding something. We're avoiding the reality of our situation. It does not mean that we look at something and immediately internalize it and say, I have to do this. And it's really important that I make that very clear. Effective time management is about using all of our resources at hand. And that means people as well as physical and technological resources. So when we are procrastinating, sometimes we can procrastinate on a decision. Sometimes we can procrastinate on a big piece of work we know is ours. Sometimes we can procrastinate on looking at something because we're simply not accepting it. That's called mental disengagement. And that's a key issue for our well-being. We don't want to accept what's going on. But until we accept something, until we do that, we can't take the right steps to then take positive coping action. That's really important. So here's a key thing for procrastination. What am I avoiding? And sometimes it's not the obvious thing, okay? It might be the outcome of that thing, but there's something underpinning it. So that's a really good question. What am I avoiding that's causing me to procrastinate and causing me all this trouble and irritability and worry and stress? So here's a couple of simple suggestions. And I must say that these are all born out of my own experience, okay? Because this is my key problem. I procrastinate too much. Still get it done, but that's another story. Number one, don't overthink it. Now that's again counterintuitive because part of today is about planning and considering and spending time thinking. But when it comes to that piece of work or that decision or that responsibility that we're pushing back on and we're procrastinating on, one of the reasons we're doing it is because we're coming up with all these possible false realities. Oh, it's going to be this difficult, or this might happen, or this is going to be, and what we're doing is we're ruminating, which means that we're thinking again and again and again about a negative potential consequence. So don't overthink it. I guarantee you there's people out here in this webinar right now who, when you actually think about the last thing you really procrastinated on and then you did it, it wasn't even half as bad as you thought it might have been. Now, the danger is that we forget that and we then do it again, you know, and it's a common joke in my house where I'll go, oh, do you know what? That wasn't so bad. And my wife will look at me like I'm an idiot because that's the 500th time I've said that. Okay. So don't overthink it. Now, if procrastination is the opposite of taking action, accepting our reality, well, then it's pretty obvious that, you know, by accepting what reality we have is a really good way of overcoming this. And that's some reflection and some reframing and some key questions. What is it I'm procrastinating on and why? What am I trying to avoid? Okay. Pause. Have a look at everything that's happening, accept the reality, and then make good decisions, positive decisions. Use those resources around you. It doesn't mean we have to take it all on board and do it all. You know, I had a conversation with my boss. It's really timely, and I'll share this with you. I had a conversation with my boss, Kath, today, because, you know, it's great. We're really busy. We're absolutely packed to the rafters. This is wonderful. Of course, it brings with it a heavy workload, you know, and I've hit that kind of, my bandwidth has hit its capacity. Of course, I don't want to stop everything coming in. So just having that conversation with my boss and just putting it out there and saying, what can we do, was all I needed. So accept our reality. What are we procrastinating on? And here's the thing, take some action. If procrastination is the opposite of action, then take some action. Do something. Actively do something. Now, don't just launch into it, because that's, again, it's not really what we're saying. What we're saying is, you know, let's say, for example, you're starting on a week or you're starting on that day. I can't tell you how important this is that I live by this. What is that one thing I don't want to do? What is that one thing I'm putting off? It's usually a large, complex task that involves a bit of this, because I don't like using this too much. Okay, it hurts. It doesn't get used that often. So I have to look at it and I say, right, well, that's the thing I need to do. Because as soon as I start to put that off, I start overthinking it. And then what happens is my day starts to go and I do all these things and I'll do everything. And I can seem like I'm being productive. I can answer the phone, send the email, you know, do all these things. But ultimately, deep down, I'm getting frustrated because I know that all of that is a procrastination technique on that one thing that I really need to do, which of course, when I do it, isn't as bad as I thought it was. So you can see the pattern. So choose that thing and do it in your best time, which we'll talk about in just a minute. You know, what's that one thing I don't want to do? You don't have to do it all. Start it off, you know, just begin it. And that breaks the power of that negative thought pattern, which is what procrastination is. And I thought I would spend a little bit of time on this because it's a very common human flaw that is completely normal, but out of balance can really affect our well-being. And actually, it's only when that pressure is released that we realize how pressured we were in the first place. Because when we're caught up in it, and this is again where it really affects our well-being, when we're caught up in that pressure and that stress and that anxiety, we don't realize how badly it's affecting us. And then as soon as we release that pressure, that job is done, or we've done that thing, or that week has gone by that we were really worried about, all of a sudden things change. And it's like walking on air again, you know, that lightness that we get when we release that pressure. Kayleen, when the volcano either erupts or just dissipates. I don't know what happens, but I won't go there. But that's what we're looking for. And that's really good information, because that procrastination is feeding into it. So let's get some proactive decisions on that. So here's the tip of procrastination. Don't overthink it. What am I avoiding? And let's get on with some of that. So planning our workload for our well-being, okay? And this is, you know, again, we're gonna look at a variety of different concepts here, but it all comes down to how we manage the time. What time, none of us has any different time, you know, great achievers out there have the same amount of time in each day. We're not saying that we don't have to work hard. You know, we believe that a good work ethic achieves things. That's not the purpose of today, but it's about having that balance. I can work a really, really long week and have a great week and feel energized at the end of it and spend good time with my family. I can work the same amount of hours a different week and have a completely different experience. It depends how I approach that week and how I manage that time. So time management then enables that workload management. And the key to it, above anything else, is planning and protecting that time. Planning and protecting that time. Now, when we do it, we are more productive. We are therefore fulfilled because we're hitting those key achievement targets. We're doing things, okay? We're doing the jobs that need to be done. We're allocating, we're delegating. We're being fulfilled. We're gaining that level of fulfillment that we need from our working roles. Our working roles provide an absolutely integral part of what it means to be us. And that's one of the reasons we keep hearing during this COVID period, you know, people are struggling because they lose that sense of purpose. So through effective time management, we can really make the most of that, okay? But we have to be disciplined, we have to be proactive, we have to commit to doing things and action, okay? And we have to commit, if we do have struggles with it, then we have to commit to change. And all that means, it's nothing to be scared of. All it means is doing something differently and consistently doing it. 1,440, what does that mean? What is that figure there? What do you think? Anyone want to take a guess? 1,440. Why have I put that there? Or is it just a hangover from another slide? What do you think? I'll give it a minute. There's a clue in that. There's 1,440 minutes in a day. Okay, and the reason we put that in there is because actually 1 minute is enough to take a decisive action, make a decision, do something, send that email, make that phone call. And actually it sometimes only takes 1 minute to do something that can change the nature of how we perceive the day. So planning and time management is absolutely crucial to what we're talking about today. So guys, I really want you to feed into this again. What stops us? We've now said, and please do feed into your chat. What are the barriers to time management? We've identified that work can be very pressurized. We've identified that time management is important, and not just to achieving things at work, but actually important to our own well-being. You know, our achievement at work, our work life is so crucial to who we are and our balance. What stops us? Why can't we do it right all the time? What are those barriers? Think about your working day. You might have this great list of things you want to do, and have you done them? Yeah. Have you achieved everything you want to do? Or what did you do? Okay. I'm really interested because we need to identify those barriers to be able to start to move through. We're starting to get some chat coming in, which is great. Well done. Thank you very much. Priorities keep shifting. Yeah. Who shifts them? That's interesting, isn't it? Because we're not in control of that all the time. Self-doubt, love it. Thank you, Jack. It's very honest. And that's something that's really important. Not believing enough in ourselves, or worrying that we might get things wrong, or we don't have the capability. Absolutely. Helping others, Lauren. Yeah, brilliant. Supporting other people. Absolutely. Other people's demands come into that, don't they? Yeah. Kayleen, what about you? What are your barriers to time management?
I think they've been said. It's like the shifting, like something will come in and I just have to drop everything and get it done. And also supporting as well. I'm a bit of a nightmare. If I'm really stacked against it and someone wants my help, I need to make sure that my facial expression conveys that I want to help them, not that behind I'm like, oh my God, I've got so much work, I don't have time for a 5-minute chat that's personal. I'm not interested, which sounds horrible, but I know I need to work on that.
And that exactly. And it is all personal. You know, we've got Louise has put in not having time and personal space to time manage, you know. So I'm going to challenge that, Louise, as we go through the course of today. And it is different because, you know, we've got real challenges out there at the minute, and we are feeling it. You know, people are working from home. We've got the kids at home. We've got challenges with space, and it all impacts our ability to time manage. I'm hoping that at the end of the next half an hour, you've got a couple of key things that you can take away, because you don't have to protect those 8, 9, 10, 11, or 12 hours in a day. That's not the message here. There's just certain key things we need to protect. So let's have a look at what stops us. Okay. And this is just, there's plenty of other things. Too much workload, that not knowing what to do and where to start. Okay. Interruptions, and that can be anything. And that links into Louise, not having the right place and the right space, too many people around, emails coming in, other people's expectations, the kids, answering phone calls, anything that comes in and distracts us from what we are trying to do. Things being too complex and not knowing which bits to tackle, not knowing how to do it. The continued demands of the workplace. You know, workplace doesn't stop. You know, just because we've planned our time doesn't mean that everything else is going to work around that. It's not how things work. Not asking for help, not knowing how, or feeling able to actually ask for help. And oh gosh, let me just go forward again. And not knowing where to start and what to do. So we've got something coming into the chat. Working from home on your own means lack of feedback and lack of support. It can do, definitely. We've certainly experienced that in the past. And that's a slightly different sort of conversation, but I think that that's really important, that we need that feedback and we need that support. So I would almost seek it out and have a conversation with those people to work out how we can get that feedback. Isolation and separation are very, very, very dangerous to our well-being. And I think that that's a really, really important point that you've made. Well done. Not knowing how to prioritize. And there's all sorts of stuff in here to not having the right space, not having the right area to work in. These are all barriers to being able to manage our time correctly. Now, one of the things that we do and we focus on is when we've got a really high workload, it can often feel like everything is a priority. That's the problem. It's not that, it's not like it's so easy to say, well, I've got to get the milk and I've got to write a 10-page report. Okay, which one do I need? I'll get the milk quickly because everyone's moaning if I don't, things come through and everybody sets their own priorities on it. So we have to understand and work through what a priority is. And I think that, and I can certainly relate to this, again, think fight, flight, or freeze response. The more stressed and anxious we become, the less sleep we have, the more our well-being is at a low ebb. then we are less able to think realistically and from different perspectives. And when we run our resilience program, that's what we talk about, our mental agility. And it's an absolutely crucial element of being resilient, being able to keep coming back to it. We lose that mental agility, that ability to see things from different perspectives when we're under pressure. Now, sometimes what we do is we either don't do anything, and I can absolutely relate to that. I think there was about a week ago, I just kind of sat there and just stared at my computer for about 10 minutes, went, it's just brain shut down because it was all coming in. Or we can just go straight in and try and be productive and just do lots and lots and lots of stuff, but actually we're not doing the right things in the right way. So it's what we call the busy fool. Are we actually being productive? We might be doing everything we can to avoid the thing we don't want to do. That's like procrastination. So what we'll look at for the next 15 or 20 minutes is being able to understand and plan our tasks, our ability to actually prioritize for ourselves. What is it? How do we break them down? What do we do with these tasks? And then what can we do to communicate our way through that as well? Because remember, these are our priorities. We have to balance that expectation from other people and ourselves. So many of you will have seen this already. Some of you may not. And if you haven't, great. And if you have, great, because we're going to look at it in more detail. This is something that we train. It's one of many things that we do with our time management. And it's just a way of establishing what's urgent and what's important. If we think of things that are, you can see the matrix here. So on the left-hand side, the axis goes from less important to important and urgent to less urgent. So the concept of urgent is when there's a time pressure on something. When something's got to be done yesterday or in the next 10 minutes or the next hour, that's urgent. And that's got a scale and can go to things that actually don't have any time attached to them. Now, something that doesn't have a time attached to it is a real danger for people who procrastinate. Because I need that. There's a brilliant YouTube video out there, Tim Urban, and he calls it the panic monster. Okay, I need that panic monster to go, we've got to get this done. So I need that time frame. Otherwise, I sometimes won't get it done. Now, important and less important, when something is very important, that means that you need to pay care and attention to detail, and it needs to be right. There can't be too many mistakes in this. And again, that's a scale. So let's have a little look at what this looks like. In this A box, it's our urgent and our important box. These are things that have to be done quickly and they're important. These are important jobs that have to be done right. They might be quite complex, and there's a serious time pressure with these as well. The B box, now these are less urgent, but they're still important. Now these are things that perhaps don't have that time attached to them, but they're still very, very important. Now your B box is a really interesting box, okay? I'm gonna come back to this in just a second. So remember, these are things that are very important, could be quite complex. There's a business or a personal case resting on these things. They will have an impact to the business, to the organization, to yourself, but there's perhaps not as much of a time frame at the moment. The C box. Now these have a strong, they need to be done. They need to be done yesterday and the next day, but they're less important, okay? They might be smaller tasks. They might have less of an impact. And they might be things that perhaps if you're going to make a mistake, you can make a mistake on these. We all make mistakes, okay? Let's just get that out there. It happens. And then we've got our D box, okay? These are the things that aren't particularly urgent and they are not important, okay? So it raises a small question here, okay? What should we have in this D box? Should we have anything in there? Now, the way we use this tool, in a workshop, what we would do is we would have asked you, and I think that Kayleen will have asked you as well, to have a think about all the tasks that you've got. Okay, so you can go away with this and you can do this. And I do this on my coaching sessions, and we coach, senior leaders, and it's really interesting to see what happens next. So what we do with these is we have a look at it, okay, and we understand what our tasks are. And this is the point of time management. Time management and task management are the same thing. So what are our A-rated tasks? Quality tasks need to be done in quality time. What are our B-rated tasks? What do they look like? These need to be planned. They need to be scheduled for quality time. Notice I say quality time. Okay, we're going to come back to that in just a second. What do we mean by quality time? Have that playing around in your head. So these B-rated tasks, they need to be planned and scheduled. Now, here's the danger with B-rated tasks, okay? If I've got lots of urgent and important tasks, okay, loads of them, what's going to happen to those B-rated tasks, bearing in mind that there's no time schedule? So you know exactly, I can see my Kayleen's smile. I wish I could see everybody because I know I'd see lots of smiles right now, because this is what happens. The reality is those B-rated tasks keep getting pushed back and back and back. And then what do you think happens? Guess what? They become A-rated tasks. All of a sudden, there is a time thing attached, and quite often, because they are probably bigger, because they are probably of more gravitas and more importance, all of a sudden, we're in a bit of a pickle, because we've got all of these A-rated tasks now. And this is the interesting bit with it. We like to see where your tasks fall in the box. Yeah. And this is where we identify patterns. Our C-rated tasks, these are the things that we want to be dealing with really quickly. Okay. So these are tasks that we do to get the ball rolling. It's what we might call a quick win. Okay. We've all heard of that. Okay. These are the tasks that I'll quite often do just as I'm easing into work, bearing in mind I'm a procrastinator. So I have techniques to do that. And I have to get the ball rolling. I have to, switch the engine on and warm up my brain a little bit. And I do my C-rated tasks here. Again, what do you think might happen with these? As we're listing our tasks, we're starting to put them in each box. If we see that we've got all sorts of urgent and less important tasks, we might then start asking ourselves, well, why am I doing all of this? And that's a fantastic tool. And this is often where in my coaching sessions, we realize, hold on, I'm holding on to too many tasks I don't need to hold on to. And we can delegate them, okay? And this is where we look and we use those people around us to help us, okay? Those of you in leadership and management positions, you may be able to delegate tasks. Don't think that you can just pass a task off. That's not delegation. Delegation is about identifying what will help develop someone else and empowering them to be able to discharge their duties, make decisions, take accountability for a full task. Doesn't happen overnight. So we can delegate these, we can pass these off, we can use this as almost a development tool for those people around us. And look, the D-rated tasks, if I'm honest, if we've got lots of D-rated tasks or any, just get rid of them. We don't need to be doing them, okay? And it can be anything, okay? Anything that isn't adding to the quality of your day and the quality of your productivity. Now, I'm not putting taking a break, going for a walk, refreshing and recharging in here, because that's an A task, okay? And I'll come back to that in a bit. But we need to either just get rid of these, we need to eliminate them. This is where we will analyze what's happening, and we can start to use this as a really good framework and a really good structure to how we manage our tasks. Okay, so this is a really, really, really handy, important matrix. Now, you don't do this all the time. This is not what we're saying, okay? The point with this, because if you try and do this every day, you're gonna have problems because it takes a bit of time. What I tend to use this is I use this on a sparing basis. I might use this when I've got lots of big projects happening, or when I'm just doing a review or a recap, maybe the start of a week. Really, really handy to use when you're coming back from holiday. I don't know if anyone else gets the that Sunday night holiday blues where you start open up your computer and you look at it and go, wish I hadn't gone on holiday now. This is the sort of time to use this because it takes a bit of time, it takes a bit of work. So what do we do? How do we use it? List all your tasks. Okay, that's number one. Okay, list the things that you've got going on, which you may or may not have done today. Now, when you do this list, have a think about the impact of that task to the organization. Okay, what's riding on it? That's the question. Yeah, what's riding on this task? Yeah, who needs to do it? How right does it need to be? When does it need to be done by? How big is it? Does it need to be broken into smaller subtasks? How much time will it take? That's really important. We forget that so often, and we'll talk about smart to-do lists at the end of today. But how much time will this task take? What else is it going to crowd out? So if I've got, and remember, we go back a screen. Let's just quickly go back to that screen. If I've got lots in my B's and my A's, and then actually all my B's start coming into my A's, it's crowding out all of those other tasks, and that's when we start to drop the ball. That's when we miss that communication or that quick 1 minute thing that we could have done because we're focusing all our time on these. And we have to literally turn off the phone or turn the emails off to try and zone in and get these things done. Again, plan, spend time looking at what our actual task is and what it means. Here's a great one. Do I take too much ownership? What do I need to do versus what can we do? And there's going to be different people on this call, and you'll all have different areas of responsibility. But this is a big step. When we get a task come through on the email, or we have that conversation, or something else happens, or we work in a B2C and it's very busy, don't immediately think that we have to do it all. Okay, just what can we delegate? What can we use? How can I use my support networks? And here's the important thing: if I've got things on there, if I'm looking at a task that's consistently ending up not being done and procrastinated on, and actually perhaps I don't need to do it, who's ready to do it? And if there's no one ready to do it, then that's a fantastic opportunity to start training someone. I always say this, and it's absolutely true. The more time we put into developing our people, the easier our workload and our time management will be. We can't expect people to take on a complex task without their need. We should always be looking at that next person who should take it on. We should always be sharing information. We should always be teaching. We should always be learning, because that helps us delegate and take ownership and accountability for everyone in the business. Check our communication with this. Am I internalizing everything, or am I using other people around us? Am I asking for help? And this is where this is really, really positive. When we use this matrix, we can actually look at our bad habits and increase our self-awareness. So what is my pattern? And you can all tell by now that my pattern is to allow everything to hit that A box, because I tend to procrastinate. So I work on it. I'll look at things. Now, if we go back to that B box, what are some of the things that sit in that B box? That can be big projects. It can be business development. Yeah. There's that thing. I don't know if there's any smaller business owners who are in on this call, that feast or famine. When you get really busy and really productive because lots of people want your services, brilliant. But then what suffers? The things that you can push back: sales, business development. Okay. That's a misconception of a task. So we really need to understand our bad habits and our businesses, our organizations' bad habits. Have we got lots of people not following through fully on projects? Are projects failing? It will be a management and a resource problem. How much is in my A box, and am I procrastinating? So when we use it, look, I would just use this really, really simply. Identify my key tasks. Now, this is the thing, okay? And this is one of the things I'd love you to remember. If you do it already, brilliant, keep doing it. If you don't, this is a great thing. When we start to plan our week and we make a list of the things that we've got coming up, I would try and choose anywhere between 1 and 3 or 4 key tasks for that week. Don't choose any more. What is it I want to achieve? What am I procrastinating on? What's going to have a big impact? What do I need to put some good time into? And what's going to really help me and the business move forward this week? That's the thing I need to do. And then we identify that key task and we stick to it. And we plan that in. So do you remember how earlier on I said that, one of the barriers is interruptions, and we don't actually have to protect all of our time. We only have to protect that time that is time spent on those key tasks we achieve. We can think cleverly about it. We can say, okay, well, it's all right if I'm interrupted now. It's fine. Yeah, no problem. Oftentimes we'll interrupt ourselves because we don't want to do something because it's hard. Okay. But let's identify those key tasks. I try and have a worry. Yesterday was Monday. So I did my key tasks and I went from 3 to 8. I thought, hold on a minute. That's not key tasks. That's just loads of work. So I then reduced it. Okay. You've got to come up with those key tasks, and I plan my week around those key tasks. When am I going to do it? I structure it. And I'm disciplined. And then I need to review it to understand my habits and patterns. What haven't I done? What have I done? Okay. I have a process, and this is a different conversation, but I have a process of writing to-do lists. And I keep them. I've got a little file where I keep all my, handwritten to-do lists, because I'll keep reviewing them and I'll look for patterns. What am I not doing? And what am I doing? And when am I doing it? So really use it to review and understand our habits and our patterns. So let's just have a think about that. Protecting that time. So our A time, that's the stuff when we need to be our quality time. Do you remember earlier on, about 5 minutes ago, I said we'll do our quality tasks and quality time. Okay. I know that you're all nodding your head now because I'm using that webinar telepathy. Okay. So what's our A time? Our A time is when we are at our highest levels of energy and concentration. Okay. So our highest levels of energy and concentration. It is that time when we are able to really, really, really focus and get into flow. Now, some of you will have heard of flow. Kayleen, give me a nod. Or have you ever heard of the concept of flow? Yeah, so good. So lots of you will have heard of flow. It's simply that thing that we can get into when, you'll be at your work. It'll be, 10:30, and then you'll look up and it's midday and it feels like 5 minutes. And that's actually a meditative state that we get into when we are really, really firing on all cylinders. We have completely zoned into our work and we are hyper productive during that time. It takes about 15 minutes to get into flow. It suggested that it does. But one single distraction can get us out of flow. And that can be a buzz from our phone. It could be a knock on the door. It could be anything. And then again, we really need to look at our A time. What is our best time? And the key to understand that is we have to understand our natural energy. Okay. So this isn't on the screen in front of you. Have a think about, and I'm going to tell you a little story. Have a think about when you were at your best. Now, sometimes we'll think we're at our best when we're actually not. So here's my story. About 5 years ago, I used to work in apprenticeships. As is my one, I wanted to do a very good job, and I did. And we had a very, very big caseload. So the nature of an apprenticeship program is that you take a learner, okay? And obviously, the more learners that you can take, the more productive the organization is. So, and there would be times when we would have a very, very high caseload. And that caseload could be anywhere up to 80. So if you think about this, I've got 80 people feeding in things to be marked. I've got 80 lessons to run. I've got 80 one-to-ones to go. You know, they're big, big workloads. And I did a little experimentation. You know, we would go into the office and in the office, there'd be 6 or 7 of us. And the nature of the business is we'd be out on the road for most of the day. And then you get into the office, of course, people would natter, they'd chat, they'd catch up. Great. Good for well-being. Not so good for productivity. Okay. So I did a little experiment, and I used to run pubs and restaurants. And when I used to run the pubs and restaurants, I thought I was a night owl, because obviously I'd work until midnight or 1 o'clock, and then you'd sleep, or, you know, socialize and sleep, and then get back up about 10 o'clock or 9 o'clock, or sometimes 5 in the morning, depending on where I was working, and crack on again. I came out of that, and I quite quickly realized that my natural pattern, my natural flow, I was at my best very early in the morning. And I did a test, and I got up at about 4:45. I'm not saying you need to do this. And I cracked open my computer, and I did an hour's worth of work. And then I would go for my run or go to the gym, whatever it was. And then I would get on with my day. And I actually timed it, and because it was quite easy to find how productive I was. And I found that I was 3 times more productive in that hour than I was at any other point in the day. 3 times. So the volume of work I could get in that hour was just incredible. And it allowed me to cope with a large workload. Now, you all have your natural ebbs and patterns. It might be between 10 and 12, whatever that may be. Have a think about it. Plan your tasks into those right times. If you're working from home, when are you less likely to be distracted? Don't try and do complex work when you know that the kids are going to be bouncing around, because you're not going to get it done. You're going to find yourself distracted. So really look at that A time when your energy is high and your concentration is high. The final piece on this is that it ebbs and it flows. So we have a maximum concentration time. Go with your natural rhythms. Okay. And when you start to ebb, take a break, move away from it. Stop doing that complex task. You can see how that planning allows you to do this. Okay. If we're procrastinating, we've just left it all to the last minute. We've just got to plow through, which we can do. So what is your best time? Okay. So think about it. Feed into the chat. I'd love to hear it. So mine is weirdly between about 5:30. It's changed. So I'm getting older and I'm getting more tired, but it's weirdly between about 5:30 and about 9 o'clock is when I'm absolutely my peak. I also have another recharge between 4 and 6, which is frustrating for my family because it often means I'm late home. I'm terrible in the evenings. Yeah, Louisa said first thing. I think you probably find that a lot of people will find that first thing is your natural pattern, but it does change. My boss, Kath, works really, really well in the evenings. She flies through it. I'm dead. My brain just shuts down. Okay, I can do it, but I don't like doing it. So what is that best time? Oh, we've got some more things coming in the chat. Great, people feeding into this. 12 till 2, Lauren. Okay, 9 to 11, Jack. Thank you very much. Good. Really zone in on this. This is probably one of the top tips for today. When do you work best? Try and plan that quality stuff into your best time and protect that time. So we go back to it again. What do I have to protect? Protect your quality time, because that's when you'll get most done. That's when you'll increase your well-being. Love that, Sue. 10 to 12, 2 till 4. There's all sorts of stuff you can do to protect that time. We'll cover that in the top tips in about 5 minutes. So what do? We plan our week, okay? We spend time and we plan our priorities. Now we can do this weekly and daily. That whole urgent important matrix is about finding out what a priority is. So let's do that on a weekly basis, get our key tasks for a week, but let's also do it on a daily basis as well. Stop, spend time, plan our day. Loosely, allow distraction, allow interruption. It's all about the tasks that we are going to achieve. What do I need to go home today or stop working from and be happy that I have done? So yesterday, my key task was to get a piece of content written. It took me a while, but I did it. So that creates a positive well-being. Set those key objectives for your week. These have to get done, okay? If they don't beat yourself up, but try your best to get these key tasks. We call it MITs, most important tasks, key objective, key tasks. These are the things that at the end of the day, on a Friday or a Sunday, or whatever it is, you want to put your line through it, say, I've done that. Huge for well-being. Huge for motivation and focus and concentration. Can't underestimate it enough. Make use of SMART to-do lists. What do you think we mean by SMART? If I was in a room, you'd all be feeding into this. Many of you will have heard of the acronym SMART, specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-bound. All a SMART to-do list is, it's not just a list of things that we need to do. It's prioritized, and actually we put some time by it. Remember I said 1,440 minutes in a day? Well, how many minutes is it going to take us to do these things? Look at our quick wins. These are things that we can do really quickly. They get the ball rolling. You know, what can we do in our off time? If I know that I'm going to be distracted and I'm going to have poor time, let's say between, I don't know, my worst time is 2:30 till about 1:30 till about 3:30. I'm awful, I don't know why, I can't concentrate, then I'm going to put the stuff that's easy, the brain numbing stuff in there that I know I have to do, but it is okay. So make use of smart to-do lists, put some times in, estimate how long a task will take, and review it. Find out, are you underestimating? Or are you overestimating? Get a feel for the actual amount of time things take. If we're going to manage a process, then we need to be able to understand and break down what that process requires. Smart to-do lists. Remove those potential barriers. Communicate your way through it. And we do a lot of work on how we can set our emails up to auto response. We can explain to people that we won't be available for an hour. I remember speaking to the kids when I was working from home and just saying, look, guys, I'm on a training session here. We've got to just watch this time. Whatever we need to do to remove those barriers. How conducive to working is your area? How much are you distracting yourself? Whatever those may be. Use your best time, which we spoke about. Protect that time. Block it into actionable chunks. What am I doing? 30 minutes here, 30 minutes there. Take a break and communicate your way through this. I can't underestimate enough how important communication is and setting expectations both for ourselves and other people. Ask for help. Look at the task. What does it mean and who do I need to support? Look at where and when we need to delegate and can we delegate? Put some processes in place. And again, keep reviewing that progress. Keep reviewing it, okay? Look for those patterns because this is unique to everybody. We all have our own individual patterns and we can all make incremental improvements to those patterns as long as we know them. And then protect your time. Protect those best time moments. Protect those 30-minute actionable chunks. Do everything we can to do that. So how do we do it? Focus on your key tasks, okay? Don't allow ourselves to be distracted. I'm a procrastinator, therefore I will look for distraction. I'll keep my emails open, okay? Here's the thing, remember flow, one buzz? If you can, then switch Outlook off for an hour. If I know I've got to get my head into something, I want my phone away, I want my phone turned off, which it currently is, because I got a call about a minute before this webinar and thought, oh, better turn that off. But do take those actions, be proactive about it, set yourself up. Don't allow yourself to be distracted. And if you are distracted, here's another thing. And this is what we call the difference between synchronous and asynchronous communication. Synchronous is I might ring Kayleen up and go, Kayleen, can you help me with this? I've got this challenge. Well, I've just done interrupted Kayleen and she's got to do that thing with her face where she says, I'm going to help this person, but I don't want to. Okay, that's synchronous. It means I demand your attention. Asynchronous means it's at your will. I might send you an email and just say, when you're ready. Here's a great idea. If people are busy, ask if you can ask a question or when is it okay to speak? People have their own workloads. Really think about that. Don't allow ourselves to be distracted. Turn your phone off. Set time to respond to emails. If you can, and not everybody can do this, book that time to respond. Set your email auto response. If you're going to be away all day or for 2 days or for a couple of hours, just quickly ping it up. I'm unable to take my emails at the minute, but I will get back to you at a set time. Emails can consume a huge amount of time. And that's a different training session. Anticipate, think about the future, where and when you might need help. I'll just bring all these up. Inform key people when you're available or not available. And this is really interesting. This came from a previous job I had. Delegate authority to people to cover for you. Now we run training sessions and you would not believe the amount of people who come into a training session and they'll have the phone on and they'll be checking the phone. And I'll say, so what are you doing? Yeah, this is your session. This is for your benefit. Oh, I'm just checking this to make sure this has got done. Okay, so have you given people the authority to make decisions on your behalf? Oh no, I didn't really think about that. That's what you need to do. Yeah, plan your time. I'm not available here. Well, who can cover what ever needs to be covered? And celebrate your successes. Okay, when you get that things done, don't underestimate the power of that success. Take time, pause, celebrate your success. And really remember, and I think this is such an important lesson. I learned this very strongly in my last role, which was again extremely challenging in terms of workload, extremely challenging. You set others' expectations of yourself. Okay, I'm just going to leave this slide with this thought. If you get back to your emails and your phone calls as soon as they come in, then you are setting that expectation to the person who's calling or emailing you that you always respond to your emails and your calls. They're not setting that expectation. They might be demanding it, but you have a choice. Okay, we can do this politely and we can do this in the right way, but really be aware that if we allow ourselves to be at the beck and call of other people, then they're going to do that. Of course they are. So let's set those expectations. Let's think about what we're doing and how we do it. And And I just really wanted to finish on some key tips. I'm just checking the time. I think I've nailed it, which is good considering it's a time management day. Right. So a couple of things. We've covered a lot of this, but these are just things to take away with you. Again, that crucial message of today: pause, think, set aside time to plan. That planning process should be part of your workload. And if it's not, make it. And that planning process is in your A box. Has to be done, and it's important. Doesn't take long. And the very act of writing things down and making a list and organizing has been proven to be an active support mechanism, which is a key element of resilience. So get those key tasks, review it. Don't not do it. What doesn't get planned doesn't get done. And so identify our priorities. Here's another thing I love to say. What's the next right thing? Sometimes when I'm really under pressure, it just helps just to take a break and just think, what is the next right thing I need to do? And it comes. And that creates a positive cycle of action, which we can then increase. Don't overthink it. Rumination and worry, it causes things to be more difficult than they are, which is the natural brain function. Our emotional brain thinks in black and white, and it is paranoid. It has to be, because it's there to protect us. So when we are worried, we are thinking in black and white, we are paranoid, and we have catastrophic thinking. The more we do it, the more catastrophic it becomes. Procrastination leading to mental well-being, mental ill health. It's important. Don't overthink it. Know what you need to do, plan it, and get on with it. Review your habits, your patterns, avoid procrastination. I love this. Take a small chunk of a difficult task, deal with it. Yeah. Okay. Get the ball rolling, get the juices going, and then just say, right, I'm just going to do part of this difficult task. It breaks the power of that difficult task. It's a positive cycle. Think about your best time, choose your best time, make the most of your natural patterns. And this is big, guys. Take a break. Now, a lot of this stuff is counterintuitive. We're almost saying, slow down to speed up, is what we're saying. Yeah. Take a break. We're, as I said before earlier on, we are very busy, which is fantastic. It's wonderful for us. And we're so humbled and pleased to be really busy. My temptation is to throw myself at it and work. But I quite quickly lose focus, lose energy, and lose my ability to keep things in perspective. And it happens quite quickly. So counterintuitively, you'll find that you're more productive after a break. And we teach this this is a micro recharge and a micro resilience technique. Take a break, go stare out the window, change your environment. Yep. Change how the air feels on your skin. Yep. Change what you're looking at, and it completely changes your perspective. You come back in, you'll be more productive. Just don't do it too often. That slips into procrastination. Talk, support, communicate. We can't underemphasize that. And don't be afraid of asking for help. I did it yesterday. I put a flag up to my boss and I just said, I need some help. And actually that help was a telephone call. Yeah, we're busy. We'll get it done. And that's all I needed. Yeah. And involve others in a positive manner. And this is, again, we teach this on our resilience program. There's a difference between emotional coping, which is okay, and active support coping, which is really positive and focused to task achievement. Delegate and collaborate. Don't internalize. Work together on things as much as we possibly can. Guys, thank you so much for today. I really appreciate your time, given that you've taken time away from your busy work schedules to come today. I hope you found it valuable. And I suppose it's just to open it up for questions now. And I'm more than happy to stay and answer any questions you may have.
Thank you so much, Alex. You answered all my questions. So luckily we've got some coming in to the Q&A. So Lauren Smith has said, do you have any tips for working through tiredness, which is usually caused by a heavy overflowing workload?
Yes, yeah, of course. So physical tiredness, mental tiredness is very real. It happens. So there's a couple of things. This is a difficult one. I think we need to break this down a little bit. The first thing I would say is don't work through it too much. My first tip is to pause, take a step back and reassess your workload. Look at what you've got coming in and look for avenues of support, ways in which you can involve other people if you can. I'm not saying it's possible. Know the point at which you have to stop. Try and identify those key tasks. What we need to do, if we're tired, unsurprisingly, we need sleep and rest and recharge. You have to recharge. You have to. If you don't, you will increase that level of tiredness and you will not be productive and you'll increase your anxiety. So I would say just current tips, don't work too late into the evening if you're doing it, okay? Try and clear off that key task. Identify your key task, try and clear it off if you can on a daily basis or on a couple of days. Prioritize the things that you do to refresh. Become less tired. Watch out for poor eating habits, watch out for poor sleeping habits. And if you are anxious, if there are things, if your workload is, you feel that you are overwhelmed, then use support mechanisms around you. Yes, push through when you have to push through. That's life. But recognize when it's damaging your well, because what will be happening is your productivity will be suffering, and you may not realize it, but your efficiency will be suffering as well. I hope that helps with that question.
Thank you. Gemma Layton says, hello, thank you. I've often had the mindset of having to clear the desk with a smaller, quicker task before. Sorry, that's more of a comment. Lauren says, thank you. Quicker task before I get to the bigger task, have the mental space. Okay, so they're all comments. Sorry, I was focusing on the chat than the questions. So let's just, I'm just going to pop in the chat just a link to the survey. So feel free to go along, complete it. Only takes a couple of minutes and it just massively helps with our virtual offering. So it's just really seeing if anyone else has any other questions. You're welcome to virtually raise your hand if you want to virtually ask them. If not, we'll give you 10 minutes back of your day that you didn't think you had, and you can utilize that effectively. So let's have a look. So that was nice. So Michelle says, thank you, this has been extremely useful. I'll pass on the tips to my partner too for his DIY projects. He tends to procrastinate a great deal.
I know that. Yeah.
Love that. And Lauren says, thank you so much. This was such a refreshing way to start my Wednesday. Let me just see what this question is. Thanks, Adam. I felt myself breathe again through that session, which is very lovely, from Stephanie.
Good.
Just in gonna say, I didn't think it was Wednesday.
I do that all the time. Lauren, don't worry. Yesterday I booked a tutor for a session, and I had the right date and the wrong day. I do it all the time. I think it's Wednesday, it's not, it's Tuesday. So that's fine. Yeah, love it. Perfect,
love that. So wishing my life away, clearly. No, you're not. You're just eager to get to the weekend. So just seeing if there are any other questions. We'll give it a couple of minutes. Alex, have you got any other upcoming training or coaching that you wanted to mention?
Yeah, of course. I think the thing is to have a look on our website. You know, we do a lot of these. We run bite-sized sessions, so they're wonderful. They're 2-hour sessions where we focus on a particular topic. We've got this coming up as a workshop. We have a really good one coming up on the 10th of February, dealing with difficult people and how we can, techniques we can use to manage challenging people and conversations. Our resilience is a great one. We have our resilience program coming up. We've got all sorts of great stuff. It should all be there on our website. Thank you, Ken. I appreciate that. We've got bigger programs, smaller programs. We've got a whole range out there. And I think really, I suppose what I wanted to say is more than anything else, these are very challenging times, and I think the message is to, give yourselves a break as much as you can. Don't put too many expectations on yourselves. It's okay. Whatever we can get through is what we get through. And I think that's the key message. Those bite-sized, thank you, Kenny, for putting up those bite-sized courses are great because they're in and they're out, and we focus on 2 or 3 key things, and it gives people an opportunity to just, work in a workshop environment. We do them via Zoom. We're experts at running sessions on Zoom. We get some fantastic feedback from them as well. So yes, appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Oh, Gemma says, sorry, I was trying to type too quickly. Does Alex have any tips for this? Oh God, what if I need to go back and see what I've dismissed? Okay, so I often have the mindset of having to clear the decks with the smaller / quicker tasks before I can get to the bigger tasks / have the mental space to do them.
That's brilliant. That's great. So what I would use is I would look at, absolutely. So this is a difference between a heavy, high impact task, which is your big task, and your quick wins. So what I would do is I would organize your quick wins in such a way that you can use them to get the ball rolling, but don't necessarily feel you have to clear your decks, because the challenge with that is that you spend all day clearing the decks and they can come at you. So they'll be the ones that are inputted through emails or internal or external communications. So don't feel like you have to clear everything before you can zone in on that big task, because actually that's a form of procrastination. Because what you're trying to do is you're trying to get your right mindset. Sometimes I would say, do what you have to do, clear off what you need to clear off, what's urgent and important, okay? And then plan the other ones in for when we zone back out, okay? And I would also say another great tip with that is, with the big tasks, don't try and do it all in one go. Take it into chunks, split it. So do 30 or 45 minutes of a big task, and then give yourself a break and do a couple of smaller tasks as well. And you'll find that that's a really nice pattern. That really works for me. I'm much quicker, and my procrastination is much better when I break things into chunks. It makes it more manageable. Yeah, that would be my input on that.
Thank you. I guess the one question that I've thought of is, when you're doing your key task, obviously it's kind of easier because we're working from home, but not so if you're homeschooling. Do you think that obviously scheduling the key times that you said is easier because you've got no distractions? So would it be that if you're in a work environment, going into a different room or putting some headphones on and listening to music so you can zone out,
yeah,
is why you can get into that flow?
Yes, I would say that's, I'm just going to pop you on mute because we've got some feedback. I think that's a great question, Kayleen. Yes is the answer. What we are trying to do with those key tasks is to work the time to find that right time to do it. Now, if you are working from home and you have less distractions, then that's perfect. When you're in the office, then just kind of take that and think about how you can plan your environment to work well for that. And if you do have the use of a spare room, why not? Go into it. If you've got the use, if you're in the office and there's a space that's slightly quieter, then make use of it. I've certainly done that in the past. Yes, plug into headphones. I actually do that. What I do is I have my my sort of headset, and I have music playing in one ear, but I can't have music playing all the time and be completely surrounded by it. It distracts me. But in one ear is fine, but it instantaneously zones me out. The thing with that is to communicate your way through it, Kaylee. So the answer to that is, when you're back in a social environment, you can't just plug out without communicating to people what you're actually doing. That's time management. And you can also use your electronic diaries to do that. So plan it, put it into Outlook, 1.5 hours unavailable, and be polite, be really positive, but that time is protected. The only person who'll suffer if you don't protect that time is you, and ultimately your organization. Your managers will understand it as long as you have some flexibility within that. I hope that answers the question.
Perfect. Thank you. So yeah, we're giving you 5 minutes back now. So thank you so much for joining us on this Tuesday morning. We really hope you've enjoyed it. I know I've found it really useful. So as soon as I get the presentation from Alex, I'll share that out with you, along with any useful links that we've discussed or put in the chat during the session this morning. So yeah, thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your week. And yeah, hopefully we will see you soon. Alex, did you want to say a final farewell?
Yeah, just thank you very much for coming. Thank you very much for attending. I really appreciate everyone coming along and spending the time with us. I hope, more than anything else, I hope you've got some things that you can take away with you. It takes practice. It's not going to change overnight. Anything that you found useful, share it. I'll send the slides out. This is just great stuff, really. So thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure. And thank you for inviting us, Kayleen. I really appreciate it.
Pleasure. Stephanie's kindly let me know that this session is missing from the survey, so apologies. I'll go away, add that in now. I thought I had added it. And then, yeah, I'll include the link in the post-event email as well, or give it 2 minutes and it'll be back there. So yeah, thank you so much, and we will speak to you soon. See you later.
Bye, guys.
Bye.